Hi, today we're going to be reviewing a couple of games for AKM to see if we can look into why we're dying so much and losing control of our games, and pretty much leaving it up to an RNG coin flip. But before we get into the main part of the VOD review, I'd like to take some time to cover some of the pre-game things that people should be thinking about as they're in the draft phase and loading into the game. Because we want to think about the game proactively, so we're going to do this through the context of our ruins and our summoner spells. So first, let's start off with the champion identity of Misfortune. Misfortune is a high burst ADC that excels at short trades because of the way her passive works. You don't want to take long extended trades because you're going to be doing less damage. So your goal in lane is actually just to do short trades and try and poke the enemy down, because you don't actually need to kill your lane opponent to win the lane. You just need to make sure that you get more gold and experience that they do. So you can do this just by poking them out and zoning them off. So we're in the context of that. First, I wanna look at these ruins. Press to the attack is great because this is a short burst ruin. It activates on 3 attacks. You get a bonus damage from that. However, overheal healer, even though it's been buffed, it's really not that good on any ADC. It's underwhelming compared to the healing that you would get from Triumph if you were to take Triumph. But for a champion like Misfortune, you actually really want to go Presence of Mind, because you're going to be spending a lot of mana during the laning phase using your Qs to poke out the enemy lane. The Bloodline is good because it's a high damage ADC who really benefits from lifesteal, and the coup de grace is good too. And then in this particular, these are late game skilling ruins, Gathering Storm, Absolute Focus, and these are okay if your game plan is to just survive into the late game and outscale people. But in a game like this, you should actually be taking unflinching and bone plating. And let me get into why that is. So if you look at the enemy team here, our bot lane is Sivir and Pantheon, and then we have Hecarim, Silas, and Mordekaiser. So during the game, Hecarim, Silas, and Pantheon are all champions that want to jump on top of you and just absolutely destroy you. So because of that, bone plating is really good, both for the laning phase and for the team fights later, to help mitigate the damage from their burst and make sure you're not getting absolutely blown off the map in one shot. Unflinching, same thing. Like Silas E is a CC, Pantheon W is a hard CC. Hecarim has the ultimate, I believe, is a fear. So they have 3 forms of CC that you can mitigate using unflinching. And since you're not taking legend tenacity, you have no tenacity in your ruin set. So you're going to be like, if you get stunned by Pantheon, you're just going to die, right? So in a match like this, you really want to take bone plating and unflinching. And heal is actually a terrible summoner in general because it's mostly mitigated by ignite, which applies grievous wounds. So in a game like this where you have multiple champions that are trying to get on top of you and just kill you outright, like these kinds of melee champions, what you want to do is you want to take exhaust, so that like if Silas sees you or Pantheon W's you, or Hecarim pops ghost and runs in on you, you can just exhaust them right away and mitigate a lot of their damage that way, and really increase your chances of survival so that you can stay alive and provide some value in the team fight. Um, In so the summoners you would really be looking to take in general. So exhaust is good. Ghost is good. And cleanse is good. So cleanse could actually be good here too, because because this is a CC, this is CC, and this is CC. These are all CCs that can actually be cleansed. So you could take exhaust or cleanse. I just think exhaust is better here because of the amount of damage that these champions provide. Like even if you cleanse their CC, they're going to do so much damage that you're going to die if you don't have exhaust up. Ghost is more for if the enemy team has a lot of skill shots that you need to dodge. Like even if the skill shot is a CC like Lux's Q, because it's dodgeable, you don't want to have to cleanse it. You can just ghost and avoid it. And ghost is really good in team fights because when you get a takedown, it resets, so you can keep it up for the entire fight to help avoid stuff. So this is really good into like a team comp where you have like say a Jin where you want to dodge Jin W, Lux is Q, Ari in mid lane, Ari CC is an E. Whatever skill shot junglers might have, like I don't know, like a Diana Q, something like that. So Ghost is really, really good in those situations. Um, and the reason we're talking about this is just because you have to think about the game proactively before you even get into it. You want to think about what the enemy champions want to do individually as a whole team comp, and in the early game specifically the bot lane duo, right? So let's take this for an example. So technically Sivir is kind of a poke champion, right? Because the waves are going to be coming together, and she's just going to stand here and press W and auto the minions, and if you're anywhere near them, you're going to be taking damage from the ricochets, and then her Q's a pretty long range too, right? So she can poke down pretty easy. However, it would be a fallacy to assume that this is a poke lane because Pantheon as a support is an all-in support, which turns this lane into an all-in lane, right? Because like as soon as Pantheon gets anywhere near you, he just presses W and you get stunned. Sivir presses RQ, whatever, and you're pretty much just dead, right? And then on your side, right? So Misfortune we established is a poke champion, and Lux is a poke champion, right? Because she just wants to kind of chill back and like, pop her E on the enemy champions, use Q for peel, and just try to zone them off the CS, right? Your goal here is not necessarily to kill them. It's just to do enough damage that they can't walk up to CS. So you're cool to just chill here and slow push and set up a crash, hopefully with like 2.5, 3 waves. And then, either you could take turret platings or maybe your jungler comes and you can dive, that sort of thing. As a whole, as a whole team, Set, Diana, and Yone are all dive champions. So this is actually kind of a difficult comp, right? Because the ADC and the support want to play at max range and avoid damage, whereas these other three, they kind of want to dive right past the front line and try to get to these carries, right? And on this side, we have the same thing. Pantheon is a dive champion. Silas is a dive champion. He wants to dive in as hard as he can on like the ADC, on Lux. Hecarim's the same way. And then Mord and Mord's just a frontliner. And then Sivir wants to play similar to MF at max range. So those are things that you need to be thinking about going into the game, in preparation from team fights. So you also want to be thinking about, what abilities do you really have to worry about, right? So like you have to worry about Pantheon's W, because if he W's you, you die. You have to worry about Silas's E, because if he E's you, you die. You have to worry about Hecarim's E and R, because if he hits you with those, you die. And you have to worry about Mordekaiser's R, his E, and his Q. Like his whole kit's problematic for ADCs, right? So you can deal with his R by getting QSS, but you still have to worry about evading his E and his Q in team fights, or again you're just gonna die, because unfortunately that's the life of ADCs. You get hit with things, you die. So let's actually get into the review, and I don't want to nitpick too many things. So we're mostly going to be looking at, what things are causing us to die, and what things are absolutely major mistakes that even if they don't result in us dying in this particular game, they could easily result in us dying in general. So let's get going here with this one. We'll speed this up a little bit. Oh, also, just a quick note, this is a really bad item for solo queue. This is an item that you only want to take if you're pretty much just going to be chilling and CSing perfectly and never fighting. So, Pantheon's going to be looking to engage on you at every chance you get. You're not going to be able to just sit and farm with this. Into an engage lane, you want Doran's Blade for the extra, whatchamacallit. And Sivir's actually trolling too, because you guys are heavy poke lane. She should have went longsword and 3 pots for the extra sustain, just in case she gets hit by, like, one of your Qs or Lux's E or something. Okay, this is... Alright, so... This was okay up until, like, right here. You're committing a little bit too hard, right? Because, like, there's no way you ever kill any of these people, because you don't have any CC. And, all you have at level 1 is your Q and your auto attack. Like, there's no way you kill anyone here. So by walking this far up, especially when your team's already backing up, you're kind of potentially leaving yourself vulnerable to something like Hecarim coming in, or Silas coming in. Like, if Silas skills E first, and Pantheon skills W first, which he did, you could honestly just end up dead here if you're not careful. So, it works out, you're fine, you don't take any damage, but you need to be careful when you're doing stuff. And then you're really playing with fire on that one. And obviously you're not going to die just from a Sivir Q, but, that's like, what, 90 extra damage? 72 damage. So you take 72 damage before the lane even starts. That would really put you at a disadvantage during the laning phase. This is actually really interesting that you guys came around here. Like, this could have worked. If you're gonna do this, you gotta just... Everybody needs to stay here. Like, coming back up here is the reason this didn't really work out too well. If you guys had all just sat here, you would have killed this guy. But instead, like, Lux is now chunked down 200 health for no reason. So that's not specifically your fault, but, like, just in the future, you can, like, spam ping assistants and ask people to sit in the bush with you. Alright, so this is good, because we have Prio, you get level 2. You can actually walk up. Now that Lux is here, Pantheon's not back in the lane yet, because you chunked him out and he hasn't shown. So you guys can actually just walk up right here. Did she start? And she starts Q, so she could actually just throw a Q, like, right here. It might hit, it might not, but you could go E second instead of W. Just drop your E, walk up, and like auto Q and take like 200-300 hit points away from her right here. You know, and it doesn't seem like much, but that actually equalizes the lane, right? Because Lux is missing HP, so if you take HP off this ADC, then it's a lot more difficult for her to walk up and trade with you guys. This is a pretty good Q. Lux lands her behind her, so I don't want to back up too much, but so you're in a pretty good position here with this semi-triangle thing. You're standing a little bit too far back here. You kind of want to like line up in a triangle with the support. So as soon as she throws this, you should be walking forward as you auto this minion. And when this lands, you should be queuing Sivir here. You have Q, right? Yeah, you just Q Sivir, and you're going to damage both of them because they can't do anything back. He's rooted, so he won't be able to W right away. So there you go. Just like that. That's good. Okay, so the push here is good. You're in a good position, but as soon as this wave is crashing, right, you can't, like, all you can do is stand here and hit this turret, right? You're not going to get a plate. In this situation, you don't know where this guy is. Like, you don't have this information, and you know Diana's up here, and she can't help you if Hecarim decides to show up. So as soon as this wave is going to get shoved under, the two of you should walk up this way. And you want to place a ward right here. This way, if Hecarim's still bot side and he decides to come through this way, you'll be able to see him. The only way he's going to be able to gank you, if you ward here, is if he comes all the way around here through the river, which is why Lux can drop a ward right here, and then Hecarim can't gank you guys if you guys have wards here and here. So, I'm actually going to look at another game that I'm going to cover this on too, because you have to do it earlier against certain champions. But we'll get to that later. But just so you know, this is a really bad position to be in, because these minions are about to die. You're way up here, and Hecarim could already be sitting in this bush. Like, he could be already on his way over. He could be right here even, and you wouldn't even see him. Okay, so that's a bit of basic trading error. So right here, Lux is trolling by throwing a Q that she knows is not going to hit anybody. This is like a 10% Q. And you can see Pantheon walking up to trade with you because he knows that he's going to get level 2 as soon as like 2 of these minions die, right? As well as this Q missing. So during the lane phase, when your support's abilities are on cooldown, you have to play back because you can't trade, right? They have an opportunity to engage on you now because she's throwing out this Q that she's going to miss. And as you see, you step up for this CS, and he jumps right on your head, right? You could have avoided this by just stepping back, right? And here comes the Hecarim because you don't have vision. So the two things, you know, warding would have given you a warning about him coming, and positioning a little better would have prevented Pantheon from jumping on your head and stunning you. pretty sure you guys both die here, right? So you burn flash? Okay. So you don't die, but you both burn flash. And now you're playing with fire by walking up with this low HP. Because you know Hecarim's still here. You know Pantheon's here. His W's got a pretty... It's a pretty long cooldown. But you have to try and, like, remember the average cooldowns of certain champions' abilities so that this doesn't happen. Like, in the back of your head, you probably should have been counting after he stunned you the first time. And it's a lot to think about, but the easiest way to think about this is just that you have 200 hit points, right? He's got 400, Lux is 300, Sivir's got 500. You know, even though Lux lands this binding and you chunk her, like, you see, like, you're just putting yourself in Pantheon's range by doing this. Like, there, you don't have enough damage to kill her. You should know that you don't have enough damage to kill her with how much you play Misfortune, right? The only way you kill her is if, actually, you can't kill her, right? Because you guys burned your flashes already, right? So that's something you should be thinking about, too. Is after this, you both burn flash, you burn heal, she used ignite. You guys have no summoner abilities whatsoever. Now, you know Pantheon summoners are down, but you never saw Sivir flash, so you should know that she still has flash, right? So, like, even though Lux landed this binding, you still should have just backed off and recalled and sacked the wave. Because you never kill her here because not only can she flash away, but Pantheon stuns, and this is why you end up dead here. Lux is doing the same thing. She's just... I mean, she's far enough back that she's not gonna die, but... Unfortunately, what she's doing now, by staying here, she's now putting you in a 1v2 situation because, you know, you don't know where anyone is, right? You haven't seen these guys recall, and you don't know where Hecarim is because he hasn't shown anywhere on the map. Like, even with her canceling her recall, it's still a 1v2 situation because she really can't do anything without summoners and without hit points. Okay, so that's another thing that you do a lot is like you auto waves down a lot when you shouldn't, right? So you're already behind. You came back and you have boots, but they got a kill, so you know Pantheon's gonna come back stronger than you, and you know Sivir's gonna come back stronger than you, and you know Lux has the recall. Even if Lux doesn't have to recall, you know that they're stronger than you, and that you lose the 2v2 now. So what you really want to do is auto these at the very last second, and do your best to keep the wave here, right? So what this does is that keeps you in this safe pocket where Pantheon can't engage onto you because of your turret, and Hecarim can't do anything because you're not over here in his realm of influence from the jungle. The only way Hecarim can do anything to you here is if he hits level 6 and ults over this wall. But you know this early in the game that he's not level 6, right? So what you want to do in a situation like this is you just want to chill here and last hit at the very last possible second to try and keep the wave here as long as possible. And then that's going to develop into a slow push by stacking your minion waves so that you can come this way with like 2.5 to 3 waves, and eventually you can crash 2.5 to 3 waves into the turret here, and that's going to give you the leeway to either take the plate, or if your jungler decides to show up, your jungler can come and you guys can possibly dive 3v2. But unfortunately, when you push like this, especially when you're already behind, what's going to happen is that now you have to walk up here to get CS, right? So that enables Pantheon to engage on you again, and it puts you in risk of the jungler ganking you again as well. So when you're in this position as well, you want to ward defensively. Like if you or Lux gets a control ward, you can put it here, or you can put it right here, and then this will alert you to the enemy jungler coming in for a dive while you're, you know, chilling here. And then you also want to put a ward here just to make sure he doesn't come in through this bush. And the way you do that safely is you stand right here, and then you place your ward right here, and it'll drop like right here into the bush. It won't see the whole thing, but it'll give you like enough vision so that you'll know if someone's chilling here waiting to gank you. And on that topic, I would actually recommend that you take your trinket off of quick cast and put it on normal cast. And I'll show you why after this game. I'll go into practice total and show you why. Okay, that's good. Okay, so we still have a slow push going. You just kind of advanced it a little bit too early originally. Now this is kind of illegal, right? Walking up here to CS, because you know Pantheon's here with his stun, and Sivir's here, and your support is back here in fucking Africa, right? So you know this is a 1v2 situation, and you're just kind of asking to get killed again, right? You have no summoner spells. So if Pantheon jumps on you, like, there's nothing you can do, right? So you're definitely playing with fire here. And there it is. Yeah. So now realistically, you've put yourself in a position where you should probably just instantly recall, because Lux is also walking up and getting chunked. Like, you guys are already, they have kill threat on you. You definitely lose this 2v2 if they engage. And you really should have left the wave here. It didn't end up mattering this game, but if you left the wave here and just recalled immediately, when you got back to the lane, it would either still be about here, or they would have pushed it and you would have been able to catch it here, right? But because you shoved when they don't need to recall, they can freeze this lane right here if they're good. Like, if Sivir's good, she just fucking presses the S key and stands here and last hits these, and when you come back to lane, not only are you losing a bunch of waves and minions, but there's really nothing you can do about it, right? Because you're going to be behind in EXP in addition to being behind in items. So the wave gets here, and then Sivir and Pantheon stand on this side. You know, she spell shields Lux's Q, dodges, or spell shields the E, dodges the Q. You don't really have a whole lot of damage, so, like, once they stand here, you're pretty much stuck just chilling back here, losing EXP. Fortunately for you, this game, these guys are not like the best players. And I know I know I'm being nitpicky right now, but I'm trying to like highlight the issues with wave management that you have that are causing a lot of problems. Like obviously other platinum players do the same thing that you're doing and they're not going to punish your mistakes very hard. But the only way you're going to like get better and climb is to actually start recognizing these things so that you stop making the mistakes and then you can punish the enemy when they make the mistakes that you've been making this whole time. Yeah, so again, like no vision, right? No vision, you haven't seen Hecarim anywhere on the map. This is what we call weak side. Even though your jungler's here on this side of the map and it should technically be a neutral state, she's on the wolves, right? So she's like nowhere near close enough to actually do anything here. So you know, you're already behind. You can't walk up when you're weak side like this. If you were ahead and you were in a situation where you could actually like 2v3 and just kill everybody, then it would be fine. But because you're not, you can't just be, you know, walking up like this. And this is one of those mistakes that you said you were looking for that you make all the time that consistently result in you dying and losing control of the game. Like the first death was a pretty big mistake, right? But this second mistake is what Coach Curtis would call a game losing mistake. Not because you actually lose the game right here, like the game's not over, you could still technically win, but because you lose control of the game here, right? These guys get so far ahead that you no longer have complete autonomy and agency in this game to carry it yourself. You're now reliant on your enemies fucking up or someone on your team hard carrying the game, like the Graves did in another game, which is one we're going to look at too. Um, but yeah, so this play here where you're walking up with no knowledge of the jungler into this 2v2 knowing that they have a good engage. This is a game losing play. This is where you really start to lose control of the game because now you're so far behind that you can never fight them 2v2 and you're going to be really behind in EXP and farm and it's going to be super hard to catch up and become relevant again. Especially with Hecarim now getting a second kill. Hecarim's a very snowbally jungler, and if he gets ahead, he just takes over. See, by walking up here, you're gonna lose all of this. If you had just chilled, like back here, and waited for them to push into you, you could have caught these waves, and you'd be fine. But again, but um these early ganks that are killing you, this is a vision problem. This is because you have no wards and you're walking up. So it's a combination between your vision and your wave management, right? You're putting waves in positions that leave you vulnerable and you're doing it without vision so that you can't see when there's a threat coming. Yeah. I haven't watched this whole game, but I'm pretty sure that's just going to keep happening all game, right? Pantheon's going to W and someone's going to be taken out of the fight immediately. Or Hecarim's going to RN and someone's going to die. Oh, now that I think about it, another thing, your first back you came back with boots, right? after your first death. So boots are really good into lanes like your lane, like into Lux. Like if you're versus a Lux, boots are really good because they help you dodge her skill shots, but they don't really do a whole lot into this lane because Pantheon's stun is a point and click ability, and all he has to do is get into range and you get stunned, right? You can't really avoid it except by spacing and tethering his ability range. So, um, rather than buying boots, I'm not sure how much gold you had, but at the very least, you should have come back with a refillable potion, and maybe you could have bought a control ward to put into like this spot or this spot. You don't want to buy control wards too often as an ADC. You only want them for two things. One is when you can put them in a spot that you can actually defend them, right? So like let's say you're really far ahead and you're winning lane and you're just perma pushing the tower, then you can put a control word here because their bot lane's never going to be able to contest it, and if their jungler comes, you'd be strong enough to come kill them in a situation like that. You don't want to be buying too many control words when you're behind like this, because like you saw Lux planning her control word and it's gone already, and you pretty much gave a free 50 gold over to the enemy team, right? But at the very least, you need to have some form of sustain every time that you come back to lane during the laning phase. So if you, because when you come back and you don't have any pots, and they do, what this means is that Sivir can straight up trade with you 1v1, right? So let's just say that you're full health. Alright, let's say you're full health, and then Sivir takes you to half health, and then let's say Sivir was full health, and you take Sivir to half health, right? What happens is your HP stays at half. Sivir pops her potion and maybe a biscuit, and she heals like 300 health. And now all of a sudden she's got enough of an HP advantage on you that she can all-in you. And this is a really common mistake people make in a lot of ELOs, is coming back to lane without some form of sustain. So this is something you definitely need to start working on, is making sure that you have some kind of pots, because your playstyle is trade heavy too, right? So you want to make sure that you have that sustain, so that when you like auto Q auto and they hit you back with something, you can recover some of that hit points. Those are what we would call temporary advantages, right? So like they have more HP and mana than you guys, so they have a temporary advantage, which means that they can like pressure you, but it's not an actual permanent, gold advantage, right? It's not converted until they actually use that temporary advantage to out CS you, to convert that into gold and then buy items with it. This is another area I wanted to touch on at some point, is these wards. I've noticed in your games that you have a tendency to drop a ward right here, which kind of gives you vision like this. It's a really bad, it's useless. Like, if the dragon's up and you want to see if they're going to do dragon, you can see it with this sword here. I don't know who placed this one, but this is a good spot if you want to keep an eye on dragon. This sword that you keep placing in the pit doesn't accomplish anything. Additionally, the ward here also covers this entire area of the river, so that you can see if the mid laner or the jungler wants to come down and is trying to gank you. Okay. You don't have any charges. Okay, so this is fine. Up until this point. Because you see he's low. You know you came back, right? You have your item. You have more HP. You have more mana. You know that's pretty much a guaranteed kill. But now you're over here in the enemy jungle. You know that there was a team fight going on right here, and you can see that Sivir's still alive, even though you don't have vision of her. So she could be like anywhere in this area, right? Other than around this sword or this sword, she could, you know, be anywhere here. And you know that Lux and who's this? Diana and Lux are both pretty much dead. They can't help you anymore, right? And you know that your HP's down, so like even walking, like as soon as you see this, you need to go the other way. Yeah. See, Silas and Sivir are still alive. You don't know where Silas is. This ult, it like that ult is never gonna kill her. You need to just run. Like even in a 1v1 situation, you're so far behind that ult never does enough damage to kill her because she can pop spell shield and just literally walk around it and auto you to death. Auto Q W. The only options you actually had here were to try and execute to the tower, or ideally walk this way. So, like as soon as you saw her here, you probably should have come up this way. And if you come up this way, then you can walk in the mid lane and like catch the next wave. Not this wave. This wave's going to be dead by the time you get up here. But you can catch the next wave because your mid laner is dead and he's going to miss it anyway. Oh, this is fine. You walked up a little bit far originally to attack Sivir, but it's okay. This is really dangerous. Again, you saw Sivir walking in this bush, and I believe you saw Pantheon walk this way. She could still be sitting here, and he could just be chilling here. By you guys walking up this way, like, you're asking to be sandwich here, because realistically, they didn't have to help with this dragon. Hecarim could have taken it himself. I mean, I guess you have vision in this bush, but you don't have vision here. So Sivir could have been here. Pantheon could be, you know, over here, waiting around the wall somewhere. This part's pretty good. Lux got a ward down. You got some really good poke in. You need to be a little more careful. Like, this was a good push, but I noticed a lot when you hard push like this, you have a tendency to miss CS. So you gotta work on making sure that you actually secure all of the minions when you fast push like that. Yeah, see, like you just lost that one. There's also no reason to fast push there. You should always default to a slow push as best as possible, like as much as possible. Like it was a neutral wave state. You're 2v1. Sivir didn't recall, right? So you know she's low on mana. She's missing some health. You guys, are missing mana and health too. But like, it's a 2v1 and you're pretty safe with the wave here. So if you just slow push, it's fine. When he ults like this, you can just back up, but you would still have minions here, and they would be taking a whole bunch of minion damage if you hadn't just like completely obliterated the wave. Also, this is another reason that I recommended trying to get some first person recordings, because it's easy for me to like say a lot of this stuff when I'm looking at it in a replay. It's a different story, like if your first person perspective is like this and like I don't know what information, like what you've actually seen on your screen, right? Because I'm not, you know. This is okay. I would avoid doing that. I know you want to get the CS as fast as possible without, taking turret damage. But it's always better to just let the turret hit it once and then auto so that you don't accidentally miss any minions like this one. Like, unless the minion's already low HP, then, obviously, if the turret hits a low HP minion, it's just gonna die. So, yeah. Again, we're walking up with no vision without our support. Dead again, I assume? Yeah. It's these kinds of, like, really simple things that you're not really thinking about, right? Because you're just thinking that you need to get gold and CS, and it's almost like a lack of object permanence, right? Because they disappeared off your screen into the fog of war, and all of a sudden they don't exist to you anymore. But the reality is they can just be sitting here like they were, and Hecarim could be here too. You have to work with the information that you have, right? You can't just make assumptions about where people are. And a lot of your deaths are because you're not really thinking about who's alive and where they could be. But yeah, like realistically, even though this game, how long does this game end up being? 15 some minutes FF? So the reality of this particular game is that it was pretty much lost at like level 3 or level 4 when you died for the second time. Like, it, as far as you're concerned, because at that point in the game you're no longer relevant. Like, you can't really play the game anymore at that point. And you guys FF this one soon, right? So this game ends 21-6, right? Every single one of your deaths was avoidable. Okay? Same with Lux. So if you guys worked on the, had managed this wave properly, proper wave management, proper warding, avoided those deaths, that's 10 less deaths, right? So it would be 11-6. This is a lot more manageable, and your team is less likely to forfeit if this is your score, right? Especially with a team like this, because you scale into the game, Yon gets a couple items and becomes a hyper carry. He can just start shitting on these people. Set gets a couple items and becomes a beast. Lux gets a couple items and starts one-shotting people with her R. Like, this game, you could have won this game just by not dying. Like, even though your top's losing and your jungler and your mid are, like, barely keeping it together, you at least would have been able to scale into the game if you hadn't, like, died repeatedly. So for a game like this, it's just avoiding these deaths, right? Because sometimes the best you can do is just to get CS. I mean, look at this. You died 6 times. She's died 0 times. She only has 11 more CS than you, despite being a Sivir that can wave clear like crazy, right? Like, there's no reason for this. You could have easily been ahead of her just by not dying. Alright, so let's pop into the practice tool real quick. And we can talk about warding really fast. With some examples, hopefully, if my game doesn't crash. Wait for program, please. Yeah, that's fine. So we'll just put this in. Alright, so let's grab a couple words. Okay. So, I recommended to you to take quick cast off of your trinket, and preferably whatever key that you keep your control wards on. I usually keep mine on 3. Alright. So, let's start with this ward that you like to... You usually come over here and drop this, right? This does not give you a whole lot of information, does it? Like, it sees the dragon, but you have nothing here. It doesn't cover back here at all. So, again, this ward's not really worth anything. If you want to drop one, you can drop it like here, and you'll see the whole river area. And if you look in my indicator, you see the area of sight for the ward. So this is part of the reason you want to turn off quick cast, is so that you have this indicator. The other reason is if you look right at my cursor, it turns green when it's in the bush, right? And the reason this is important is because, like, a lot of people will drop a ward, like here. Okay, just as an example, because I'm a mid laner. They'll drop this ward here. Okay? And what they don't understand is that there's a blind spot right here. like the coloring for the vision that it shows you is really weird. Like I'm sure you've seen people kind of pop out of fog of war and you don't see them until they're like, you know, instead of seeing them here, you would see them like here. And that's because the vision doesn't actually cover this whole area. So there's a blind spot here where the enemy could just walk right up here and fuck you in the asshole, right? So that's why you want to use this indicator so that you can put your wards right on the edge of the bush. This way you're still covering the bush, but you're also covering all of the area that you need to cover. And it's really important here for the mid laner, but it also helps like here, right? Like I don't know, right? So like if you look, like if you were to just drop one here, if you look on the left side there by these ponds here, there's like a blind spot, right? Where someone could just walk by. But if you place it here on this edge, in fact, go one step farther, like here, then you cover both this blind spot and this blind spot by placing it here. Alright, and just to demonstrate what I was mentioning earlier, so when you're defensively on this side, and you need to make sure that like no one's just chilling in this bush, this is even easier now that they added these indicators. But like if you aim right here, it'll pop right here, and it actually shows you like where it'll land now. So it's really helpful to take those off of quick cast, right? Because then you can do things like that, right? So instead of walking all the way up here to plant this one, you can do it from here. Ish. Okay. So let's go and get into the second replay. Let's see, profile, match history. I think it's this one. Graves. Okay. Let's check this one out because this is the game where you ended up getting carried, I believe. And there's something really important in the early game that I wanted to point out in this one, so. Again, the call, not good. All in lane, Dorn's Blade. This is also another game where you should have taken Exhaust. Pike wants to be up your ass. He wants to be up your ass. Poppy wants to be up your ass. Yeah. So this is definitely an Exhaust game. Probably even a bone plating game because this is, you know, an all-in lane. I think you did this by accident. There's been a couple games I saw where you've had cut down into teams that don't really have tanks or champions that really build HP. Like, you probably got value in this game against, like, Poppy. But, I think it was the game where Madoka was Thresh, right? The one where he was Thresh, they had, like, Akshan mid, and Rengar and Jin, Lulu, and Gwen, I believe? So it was all, like, a bunch of assassins that don't build HP, and you had cut down that game. And I'm willing to bet that you probably got, like, 0 damage out of cut down during that game. So, like, while you don't necessarily need to go as in depth into ruins like as I'm mentioning, like you can get away with just like standard pages, but you do need to be careful about things like cut down because it's doesn't really do a whole lot for you here. In fact, how much HP does Caitlyn? Like, yeah, Caitlyn has less HP than you. I think even Pike has no Pike has a little bit more. All right. So. Also, again, so before we come into this lane at all, what do the champions want to do here, right? So, Caitlyn's long range. She's got a lot of damage with her Q, and if she lands net or trap, long range auto attack, she wants to poke, right? But we have Pike, who's an all in. So, this lane together, what they want to do is EU or hook EU so that you're rooted. Caitlyn places a trap and then Qs you, and you pretty much instantly die if that happens, right? Whereas your lane is a complete poke lane, right? Yumi just wants to chill here and throw Qs all day. You see how much damage she did with that one Q, right? It's like 150 hit points. Maybe a little more. Just from the one Q plus her Airy proc. So she just wants to chill and poke, and you kind of want to do the same thing. Like you don't ever want to be in range where these guys can get to you if you can avoid it. See, so this Yumi's actually doing a pretty good job so far. Now right here, do you see this proc? You see he still has a relic shield. You can see it. You can see the orb on him. Let me make sure we're on your side. Yeah. So you can see that. So you should know they've already got one melee minion, right? You haven't even finished the first wave. They actually have 8 minions. So you would need to kill 5 of them to get level 2. At this point, you should already be fully aware that you do not win the race to level 2, right? You don't win this. They get level 2 first. They walk up. They all in you. So at this point, you should be chilling back here already. Just like you're not even trying to get this CS. You just want to be in range that you get like EXP, right? Like you, as long as you're getting EXP, you're fine. You can lose the gold. It's not worth it. And I'm pretty sure you die here already. Like as soon as they hit level 2, if I'm not mistaken. But like yeah. See, you walked up for the CS. You should already been like leaving. And there it is, right? Yeah. Um, Another thing that I want to point out, if you're doing your damage to their support player, you've already lost the 2v2. You win the 2v2 by attacking their ADC. Like, even if you had gotten level 2 first, and you had a different support champion that could do more for you or whatever, you're losing the 2v2 by attacking the Pike here. Like, even if you kill him, he's the support. Like, this is who you need to kill. You always want to go for the support. Unless there's a case where, like, there's a fucking blitzcrank up here in your face, and the enemy ADC is like back here, and there's no way you can touch them, then yeah, just like poke out the melee support. But in most 2v2s, you want to prioritize the ADC. Again, wave management issue. You're already behind, very far behind, because Caitlyn got 2 kills. You don't want to be pushing. You don't want to be pushing this out here. You just want to hold it here. Last hit at the very last second. See, and now look what happens. You're out of mana. They're back. She's a lot stronger than you. You can't walk up because of Pyke. You'd miss this CS. If they're good, they hold these. They kill this minion. They hold these 4 caster minions right here until their wave comes. And then the wave stays here. And the game is completely over for you. There's nothing you can do at that point. But as you can see, Platinum players, like, no offense to you saying that, but, you know, they don't know how to manage their waves either. But, like, if you manage to climb into Diamond, someone in Diamond would most certainly just freeze the wave here on you, and you'd be completely out of the game. See, this game, I'm okay with these boots because of the Pyke. These boots are good against Pyke because of his Q and his E. Yumi's actually doing really well with her Qs. I know you don't like playing with Yumi, but once you understand like how she works, you might like it better, right? Because she has really strong poke if she's good, and she'll just like chunk the enemy laner down to like a quarter HP without you having to do anything. And then if you end up in an all-in situation, she shields you, she gives you like bonus life steal, and like you automatically win the lane as long as you chill long enough for her to do her poke. This is actually really close. So, again, here's the problem, right? Like, you just autoed Pyke twice. He's already used all of his abilities, right? And he can't do anything. You're just getting pummeled by Caitlyn because you were too busy trying to kill Pyke. And this situation, like, she's pretty low health, right? As soon as this happens, like, you know you're not gonna escape this. Just walk this way. And focus the Caitlyn, right? Because you have no chance of actually, like, escaping this between her W and his EQ. So, just, this is the guy you want to kill here, right? But instead you tried to, like, front to back this. And, yeah. Then you end up just dead because of it. I genuinely believe that if you had just attacked Caitlyn here, you know, E, Q, W, auto, I'm pretty sure you kill Caitlyn, and then you and Yumi 2v1 the Pyke. Like, this would have gone completely differently if you had just attacked Caitlyn instead of Pike. Alright, we're chilling. Okay. I'm gonna assume your camera is like this close. I think you should have seen this Pike walking in this bush. You can't walk up here, right? Like, if you tab, you have 2 long swords and tier 1 boots against a noon quiver and tier 2 boots, right? So, like, even if Pike's not here, you probably don't win this because Yumi doesn't have her summoner spells. At least I don't think she has either of them up. She has exhaust. I mean, maybe you avoid, like, maybe in a 1v1, or sorry, 2v1, you can poke her out here using exhaust, but she still has her E, she still has heal, she never dies here. You don't know where the enemy jungler is? You know Pike's alive, even if you didn't see him walk into this bush. You know he's alive. This is illegal, man. You can't. And just like that, your flash is down again. Alright, that was really good. Right there, standing in these minions so that he couldn't land his hook. That was really good. I don't know about this. Do we have vision on Poppy at all? No. Right, so you can't really walk up because you don't know where Poppy is, right? But, like, you still have mana. You have a decent amount of health. More than either of them. Yumi has exhaust. You have heal. While you don't want to straight up fight them 2v2, this is like a full cannon wave that you're gonna miss by recalling here. I think you just want to kind of chill back here and wait for them to push it into you. Oh, you actually wait there. I know sometimes you cancel your recalls and stay. Going through with this one, this is not good. Especially when you're already down almost 20 CS. And 3 kills. Like, you were safe here. You could have just chilled here and waited for this wave and caught this wave. This was a really bad recall. And like I was saying earlier, you don't necessarily need to kill people to win the lane, right? Like, Caitlyn and Pike, they didn't kill you here. But because they convinced you to leave the lane and lose all this CS that you lost, they just made their lead that much bigger without really doing anything. And then you ended up getting dove. Huh. That's unfortunate. How did this happen? Oh, back up, back up. Okay. So, cannon wave. Did they dive on this wave or the next one? Alright, so being perfectly honest with you, the second wave coming in here, like, you should know that you're under threat of being dove. You gotta, like, sack some of this. Walk here. And drop a ward over here, and then you come back. Realistically, Yumi should have hopped off and done it, but, like, if the support's not doing it, you need to do it. I mean, like, how did this even happen? Oh, wow. So not even here, you could just ward here. That's crazy. I mean, that would have been good enough if someone just dropped a word here. Like, you drop one here, Yumi drops one here. Technically, you have two. You could have warded both spots. Like, either way, this... Like, when you see that many waves crashing, you gotta know that there's a potential for you to be dove, and you gotta ward defensively so that you can see it coming. Because if you had dropped the ward here, you would have spotted Poppy about here, and you could have just left. Same thing, you're just kind of running up gung-ho. No vision on Poppy, no vision on Caitlyn. Did we see them recall? No. We're just charging. Pushing waves. This right here, what you're doing right here, this is what Madoka and Ubinak and Waxstrats and pretty much everybody in your stream has been yelling at you about. How's this right here? You're just hard pushing this wave for no reason. You know, you're up here weak-sided. You don't know where anyone is. You're just constantly putting yourself in these really vulnerable positions. And this is bad. I imagine what happens here is either Pike hooks you and you die, or he gets to her and she dies. Like, this is illegal. I understand why she wants ward control, but you're super far behind, like level 6 versus level 5, level 6 versus level 4. Yumi does not have flash, right? Like, if she has flash, then, you know, maybe she can flash over this wall and be fine. But she doesn't have flash, so this is just... Yeah. Yeah, that's bad. And I just want to... Just to reiterate, like, how important these types of thought processes are. Most of the deaths that you have when you stream, I see them coming like 20 to 30 seconds ahead of time. By the way you're positioning, by the information you have, like, I know that you're probably going to die. It doesn't always happen. Like, sometimes the jungler doesn't show up, or somebody misses a skill shot and you get lucky. But most of the time, like this, as soon as I watched Yumi walk this way, I knew she was dead. One of you was dead. Like, I saw that coming 15 seconds ago. So, like, that's how big these types of mistakes are that you're making, is that, like, they're really that easy to avoid just by thinking a little more about what information you have. I gotta be honest, I'm actually amazed that this Graves won this game. This dude's hella smurfing, apparently. Oh, yeah. No, Poppy's fucking trolling. And it's free real estate for Graves, man. Yep. I mean, I was pretty risky chasing it that far. He's got balls. And I gotta be honest, like, I'm okay with this whole play in his situations. Like, even though he got chunked here and Caitlyn's full health, uh, like, this is a little limit testy, but I think this is an acceptable limit test, right? Because what he sees is that he has Yumi, so he can be shielded. He's a level above both of these characters, and this one's really low health. So even though his items are not, like, that good, he's actually behind Caitlyn. And, like, even with Poppy, this is fine, because the level lead is, like, it's worth something like 300 gold just in base stats, right? So he's technically ahead of both of them just because of the level difference. So if you do things like this that are calculated, like, this is a very risky play, right? Like, he almost dies, but it's an acceptable risk, right? Like, this is an acceptable limit test because, it's calculated. Like, he knows he might die, but he knows there's a good chance that he can get away with it too. Like, it's not a complete coin flip. Oh no. God, you're level 6. Okay. Yeah, so what do we have vision of? This. We have Alt WQ. Alright, so as soon as you see this, this is off limits, right? So the only thing you can do is come this way. Like, seriously, like, if I'm you in this situation, push W and run straight at Caitlyn, press Q, if she's still in range and Pike doesn't hook you right away, press R. Maybe you kill her. It's like the best you can hope for in this situation. This right here, where you circled around, hoping that he was just gonna like fling his mouse in the other direction, that was a mistake, right? If you just walk this way, right? He winds up. You fucking sidestep this way towards your turret. He probably misses. You probably kill Caitlyn here. Maybe you survive the two of them dying. I'm not sure. Best case scenario though, like it's, yeah. Walking back this way, yeah. But again, that's like a 2020 hindsight kind of thing that I'm looking at. That you'd have to really know what you're doing to actually like realize that the play here is to go for Caitlyn in a live game where there's like a whole bunch of shit going on and you're distracted, right? Because when we're actually playing, there's a whole lot to think about. You know, we're thinking about where we're clicking and CS and all that stuff. So, like, I don't blame you for doing what you did, but for future reference, the play there would have been to go for Caitlyn. Okay, so at this point in the game, see, this is rough because you and Lux are equally screwed. And it's not safe for either of you to side lane. Ideally, Lux is here and you're here. Ideally. Because I mean, you're doing an... Yeah, see... You'd be kind of fine in this position because you have this here. You can place your trinket right here. And just the last hit here. You shouldn't be autoing these like this. Just the last hit until it builds into a slow push. And once it gets... Like, once the wave pushes down here, you just back off. Because you can't push up without knowing where everyone else is. I mean, at the very least, you know Pike and Silas are here. But you're autoing too much here. You need to slow this down a lot more. You definitely don't want to be queuing waves in a position like this. What do we see going on up here? Gragas. So everyone but Poppy and Caitlyn topside, right? Yeah, and if either one of these two shows up here, you just die. So, again, you can't... Alright. Alright, at least you backed off after Caitlyn showed up. But you would have gotten a lot more... Like, you probably would have gotten this whole wave if you had pushed slower. I don't know what this is. I don't know what your logic is coming here. It's one thing if you want to cross over to mid lane here, right? Because you had good resources. And you only have 700 gold, so you can't really buy anything. But if for some reason you want to recall, you gotta go here. Like, this is that's just illegal. Because the reality is that, like, when Poppy's not on the map, you have to assume that she can be literally anywhere that you can't see. You know what I mean? Like, literally anywhere. I think the best way to put this is that if you have not seen the enemy jungler on the map, then what you have is Schrodinger's jungler. They exist in every dark spot on the map at the same time. And you could have taken the risk to walk through here to mid lane because you didn't have a reason to recall. But you definitely don't want to just, like, recall here. Especially since this is not the first time that the Poppy invaded the jungler. So. Again, we're pushing really fast with, like, really no vision anywhere. By herself, no support. No one on the team is anywhere near us. We don't know where Poppy is. Gragas, Silas, we have no vision on any of these guys. You know, obviously you managed to push it and get out, but, like... Now, see, imagine you had decided to push it all the way in, which is the ideal. Anytime you push a side lane, your goal is to push it all the way to the next turret, no matter what. Because if you don't, what you have here is a mismatch, right? You have this one wave versus these two waves. So your team's going to miss out on all this CS, right? And if you had done that, like a side laner should, you would have just been dead to Silas because there's no vision anywhere. Yeah, again, we're I mean, I don't blame you for coming up here because it's not really anything you can do over here. But, I mean, again, look how far up we are. You didn't need to flash here. He used his E on the minion. I understand it was probably a panic flash. But at all points in the game, this is something that you really need to be thinking about, right? So, like, Silas already E forward, and then he E2's the minion, right? So he's like here, and you're like here. Even if this Q that he puts down hits you and slows you for 15 seconds, or 15%, I don't think it kills you, right? Because you can gain full move speed from your W, right? So you just walk out and you push it again. His stuff's on cooldown. He doesn't have any way to kill you or catch up with you at that point. And flash is so important because now that your flash is down, you can't do anything, right? Like, now that your flash is down, you're pretty much stuck right here. Because if you walk up at all, there's no vision here. You know, there's no vision here, there's no vision here. You can't risk walking up at all without flash, because if someone catches you, you just die. So cooldown tracking is something that's really important, especially during the early laning phase. Like let's say you're laning against a Morgana. Morgana throws a Q and completely whiffs it. then you should know that you have about 10 seconds where you can trade with the enemy ADC for free because Morgana doesn't have anything, right? Assuming that your support still has spells that they can use. And you do trade pretty well some games, I think. Like, I've seen you do really, really well with that in lane. But I'm under the impression that you aren't actively thinking about, like, where people can be in addition to what they can do. Like, what abilities do they have? Are there summoners up, etc.? Okay, so coming mid lane here was the right call. Huh. Oh, this is good. Whoa, my space bar's fucked up. Okay, there we go. Now this is, doing the best you can right now, right? But the point I want to highlight, like, I know you win this game because of Graves, but the reality of this game is that you lost your agency at like level 2, right? As soon as Pike and Caitlyn killed you that first time, and then the second time and the third time, like every time you're loosening your grip on the game, right? So for the past like 13 minutes of the game, it's you've just been coin flip RNG the entire game. Like it's completely out of your hands. This game is up to Graves. Graves and Maokai. Lux lost her control of the game because she's 2-6. She has no agency either. In fact, she even has less farm than you, right? So this entire game is on the back of Maokai and Graves. All you can really do is try to mitigate and get as much CS as you can and try to come back into the game. I don't really know like a good analogy for this either, but like I'm thinking I don't know if you've ever played baseball, right? But like think when you spawn here at the fountain at the first second of the game, you're fresh, you have a really tight grip on the bat, right? And any ball that they throw at you, you have the potential to just knock it right out of the park, right? That's within your power to do at that point. Every time you make one of these massive mistakes that gets you killed, you're loosening your grip on the bat, and at this point in the game, your grip is so loose on the bat that you risk just throwing the bat anytime they throw a ball at you, right? And like you're just completely relying on sheer luck at this point because you're barely holding the bat. Oh, damn spacebar's fucking abandoned. And this type of thing goes the other way too, right? Like the games where you've been like 5-0, right? Like you're in Graves' shoes. Like he has pretty much all of the gold value of the team on him, right? He's at almost 9K. It is Graves' responsibility to not die, because if he dies, then he's giving over a massive shutdown and he's throwing the game. Like, regardless of everyone else on the team, his responsibility is to not die. And I think that that's something you also struggle with, because, like, you sometimes you try to force your lead a little bit too much when you're in Graves' shoes, and I've seen you go like 7-0, and then like 5 minutes later you're 7-9 because you just kept forcing things and dying on repeat. So it goes both ways. Like in this situation, you lost your control already, but like when you're ahead and you have complete control over the game, your only job is to make sure that you don't lose that control. Like you're not trying to win, you're trying to not throw. See, and that this is what I've been talking about with your alts. Like um even if you didn't, like, what does this accomplish, right? Like aside from the fact that you completely missed, right? Like you're not hitting anybody with this. Uh, Poppy has CC to knock you out of it. Gragas has CC to knock you out of it. Caitlyn has her trap, and like all three of them are right on top of you. They're all 2 levels above you. Like this is, I I know that you probably have this reaction when you're in situations like this where like I'm gonna die. I just need to do as much damage as I possibly can. But that snapshot response with your ult, it leads to you actually doing less damage, right? Because you fire ults like this that get canceled instantly, or you miss, when in reality you could have just like auto attacked the Caitlyn. Press Q, right? Your Q does over 300 damage with what you have, right? So like you could have gotten Caitlyn like down the year before you die. And I honestly don't think that there's much of a reason to look at the rest of this game. Um, like I said, this is completely out of control for you at this point, and this is on Graves, right? This is on Graves and Maokai. Like you're a caster minion. Your only responsibility for the rest of this game is to try and find CS wherever the fuck you can find it. Okay, in a situation like this, because it's, you know, the stuff that you really need to change is back here, right? Right here. 2 minutes into the game, you're dead and just 4 times your CS. Or 3 times your CS. 2 kills, 3 times your, like it's this right here. Less than 3 minutes into the game, this is where you completely lost control of the game. So this is the stuff you need to work on. Is, you know, your trading, your wave management, your risk assessment with your warding, that kind of stuff. There was one other game, I believe, that had a very niche thing I wanted to point out while I was doing this. Is it this one? Yeah, okay. Okay. So the issue we have here, this is fine, right? this is fine. You're not really doing anything. It's risky because like their entire team could have been fucking just chilling in this bush, but it's it's okay. Right here. Okay. One of you needs to put a ward here right now. So wards last 90 seconds. Shaco will typically start either red or raptors with his boxes. And then at level 2, he will immediately come through this bush and use his invisibility ability and kill you right here. This a lot like that Hecarim did, but in the other game, but sooner. Like you have to ward against Shaco early. I mean, you didn't even need to do it like right away. Like you could have waited until right now, like after you push this wave, but you needed a ward here. Fortunately for you, he's a psychopath and he just decided to kill your jungler instead. Or try to kill your jungler instead. I mean, either way, this is like, you have to expect this anytime there's a Shaco on the enemy team. Whether you're playing mid lane, jungle, ADC, it doesn't matter. You have to ward. Someone needs to ward here. Someone needs to ward here at like 1:30. Otherwise, this happens. Because that could have been you guys. Like, Shaco could have just... And that would have been the end of the lane. You would have lost right there. Realistically, you screwed yourselves on this lane when you invaded here. Because, like... Alright, so right now you have taken 200 damage. You legitimately have almost 300 hit points less than this Ashe, who has approach velocity, a slow on her auto attack, and ghost. Like... You're losing lane already from this. Because what's going to happen is you're going to come back. Milio's going to hit you with a Q that you realistically can't avoid for some reason, because Milio's Q is bullshit. Maybe you can avoid Ashe's W, but... they're going to poke at you. They're going to get level 2 first. And then Ashe is going to just run you down with her slow and her Q. She might not even need Ghost. Did you used your pot, didn't you? Yeah, so you used the charge of your pot. So now you have less sustain than her already in the lane too. Also, this is another thing. When you go longsword into these poke lanes, you did the right thing going longsword, but you have to go 3 red pots, okay? Because you lose out by starting with refillable. So this is 100 HP over 12 seconds for 2 charges, right? That's 200 HP. The red pot is 120, so 3 red pots is 360 HP. That's 160 extra sustain that you don't have because you went refillable. Like, I know it makes sense to buy it, right? Because you want to buy it anyway, preferably on your first recall. But for the early laning phase, you have to go. You have to go the 3 red pots because it's just you're losing out by not going the red pots. Like this early refill bowl is not enough sustain into a heavy poke lane like this. Yeah, and see, she's just autoing what's his name, Brian. He's just there's the Q, bullshit Q. Waves are even. You're behind 1 minion already. There's the bullshit Q again. There's the W. This was really troll. From Brian. This is also why I'm not reviewing either of the games you played with Madoka, because the game you played with Madoka's Thresh, he actually inted the living fuck out of your game. Like his ruins, his level 1 all in, he inted the living fuck out of that game. He's the reason you lost that game. This he Brian can't be doing this. Like even though he's got whatchamacallit, bone plating, like Ash is full health. You know, Melio's got more health than both of you. You know, you're missing health. It's just, he can't be doing this. And then Ash just completely sidesteps the thing and Ghost. Maybe not. Didn't ghost. I mean, realistically, I'm kind of lucky there, right? Because a U-pop heal. They stopped chasing. I don't know why, but like if they both immediately turned on you, you would have been forced to at least burn your flash. She was a little slow to... Like, she could have ghosted and just either forced your flash or killed you there. The bullshit Melio Q. And, like, unironically, it's 3 minutes and 14 seconds into the game. You have already lost the lane. I hate to say it, but like it's, you know, yeah, they might fuck up and you might get like a whole bunch of fucking kills somehow and come back from this, but if these are good players, you're done. You're just absolutely done already. Especially since they have a Shaco, right? Because in this situation, right, all these two need to do is build up the wave, crash the turret. Shaco just fucking comes here and he's over the wall. You get like you're dead. Yeah, you're already dead. What just happened? Jesus. W. Melio Q. Yeah, I mean, again, you're walking up at like less than half HP versus 2 people that can just run you down. Like this is every game. This kind of thing is every game. This is your major mistake. It's just, you know, not understanding the 2v2 situation, so you're mispositioning. You're not managing your waves properly. You're not warding properly. And these are your 3 major problems that are causing you to lose so many games. Also, not I don't want to flame people, But Duke's kind of been trolling you lately with this shit. That's Rod of Ages. Uh, it doesn't like. What does this do? Why he doesn't have a support item? I'm pretty sure this is like the Jungle Taric build. In fact, Madoka's Thresh items were troll too. Like he didn't just troll his ruins and his engage. He trolled his items that game. Uh, I don't know. Like a lot of the people you're doing with are. You might be better off with random supports, to be honest. Like Ubanok or whatever you want to call him. Angry Leona does pretty decent. Angry Leona's pretty decent. But again, a lot of these supports are, you know, they're peaked. You know, Brian's pretty good in general, outside of his items. You know, he's genuinely like a platinum player. Madoka knows a lot about the game. He's probably like me where he knows a lot and just fucks up during the game. But again, like in NA, I think Madoka is legitimately a platinum tier player. Uh, I don't think he's even diamond, if we're being perfectly honest. Uh, just because he's. So I think he's master tier in Latin America North, right? But I think he's platinum, maybe D4 max in NA, because we play the game differently here than they do. It's a different meta, right? So it's not really like a him problem so much as like his understanding of the game does not fit with the way the North America server plays the game. But yeah, this is like he needs to go lock it or something. This is just trolling. He also went Mark Treads into like 1, 2, 3 AD champions. Neither of which really have hard CC. None of them have hard CC. Like Ashe has her arrow, right? But like her primary CC is the slow from her Q. Nasus' CC is the slow from his wither. So swiftness boots would be better than tenacity. Right? Because like while tenacity lowers the duration of slows, swiftness boots give more base move speed, but they also lower the amount of slow that affects you. So you'd be able to move a lot better against a team like this with swiftness boots. Honestly, I wouldn't have, like, even you probably could have gotten away with going swiftness boots this game just because of Ashe and Nasus. But again, just, you know, every game, this is where you're losing. Like 3 to 5 minutes into the game, this is it. This is your problem. Late in the game, when things break down, a lot of times you're side laning and you're bouncing back and forth between waves, and that's also bad. That's bad from a macro perspective, and we can get into like mid-game macro later. Especially since it's difficult to do in this ELO where like you need to be in mid lane, but your mid laner's not side laning, so they're just sitting on top of you and you're sharing the XP, and then your jungler's here too, and like you all end up 4 levels below the enemy team because you're sharing XP. You know, obviously you got to learn to deal with that kind of as it comes. But the mid game issues, they're not that important compared to what's going on during your laning phase. with your wave management and your trading and your warding. These are definitely your biggest issues, right? So making sure that you actually hit all of your CS, right? The wave plus recall slash tempo. Okay, this is your next biggest problem. And then 3 is vision plus weak side. So these are the things that you need to work on the most. If you want to, if you genuinely want to improve at the game and like climb to diamond, maybe even master, you know, whatever goal you have now that you can more or less reliably hit platinum. In fact, these issues are also why you keep dropping back into gold. These are the issues that these are why you do not stay in platinum for a long period of time. This is why you keep dropping back into gold. So you need to work on this. And so the big thing here, okay, in order to work on these things, you need to come into each game with intent, okay? And what this means is that you need to have one of these things in mind when you're playing the game. Like, when you get in a game, you say, okay, this game, I'm going to work on my wave management and my recall timings, right? So when you're focusing so hard on this, it's going to take mental energy away from everything else in the game, and there's a good chance that you're not going to remember to ward, and you're going to fuck up CS, and you're going to get ganked by Hecarim 3 times, and you're going to lose the game. But as long as you improve at this, then it's a win, right? And in order to do that, is not only do you need to intentfully play the game, but you also need to review your VODs. You have to go back into your gameplay and actually look at the mistakes you're making to see where you fucked up and what you need to work on, right? So, like, right now, you're just, like, you'll come out of a game like this with, like, 13 deaths, and you'll immediately press the start Q button. You'll immediately go into another game, and I've seen you play anywhere from 15 to 20 games in a row, which is that's like Tyler 1 status. That's absolutely insane. Play, like, come up with a set number. Like, Kirch Codis usually recommends 3, right? Play X games, right? You know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, a certain amount of games. And when you're done with that block of games, you want to go into your VODs and review them and see where you messed up doing whatever, you know, whatever your objective was that you were trying to learn, right? And you want to see where you can improve that, like, you know, even if you're just looking at your deaths, right? Like looking at this death that you just had a couple minutes ago, I think. Was it 3? Like here, right? So even if you just come into your VODs right here, okay? Bam, okay? So you come in and you look at this and maybe like the 30, 45 seconds before it, And you say, why? Okay, why did I die here? Right? And the answer is, I walked up with very low hit points versus people that have very high hit points. And they also just, like, Ash can just run me down, right? Q, Ghost, Flash. Like, I've already used my heal. I don't have heal. Uh, you know, it's an obvious, it's an obvious mistake why you die here, right? Like, granted, maybe you could have flashed this if, like, you probably could have flashed immediately and survived. But even then, that's minimizing your mistake was walking up in the first place, right? So you have to come into your replays, or if you record first person, look at your first person, and you got to ask yourself, why did I die? How could I have avoided this death? In addition to whatever your learning goal is for that session. And unfortunately, that kind of, like, boring, nitty gritty analyzing of the game, it's the only way you're actually going to get past where you are. Because right now you're just playing your games on autopiloting, and you've completely hit a fucking brick wall, dude. You're doing the same thing every game. Platinum 4. You keep doing the same thing every game. You're bashing your head into the wall trying to get through it. And eventually you just end up this way in fucking silver 2. Right? Because you tilt and you start playing worse. And, like, you gotta, if you actually want to improve and climb, that's how you do it. If, like, you're fine playing the way you are, and you just want to keep, enjoying the game the way you are, that's fine too, right? As long as you're having fun. But again, if you want to improve, you gotta, like, put in some effort. So it's up to you. Like, if you have questions about anything that I said during this, oh god, it's over 2 hours now. This is going to be long. If you actually watched all this, so if you have any questions, you can ask me anytime. Like, anything that I said in this video, you can ask about. But also, like, if you decide that you want to learn more about this, character identity type stuff, and how to think about your summoner spells and your ruins in draft select, like, feel free to just, like, show me a game and be like, okay, look, I was against these 5 people, and this is my team. Like, what do I need to think about here, right? Tell me what you thought during the loading screen in the draft. And then, like, I'll be more than happy to, like, point out, like, what things you should, where you were right, what other things that you should be thinking about, and, like, if you happen to get anything wrong, and you can slowly build up this skill that way too. Like, I'm more than happy to help you with that. So yeah, hopefully this was helpful. Hopefully the video actually saves properly and shows up on YouTube properly and everything. So if I send you the link, then it worked, right? Good luck, man.